at a time.
All right. If I could try to call us to order. I hate to interrupt the conviviality, but do want to have the opportunity to gather together. And so if I'd ask you if you would like, please feel free to grab a beverage and a plate of food if you like. There's still seats up here at the tables. And would like to invite all of you to come forward and join us for the program. We'll welcome, if those of you I've not met, I'm David Meyer, and I am the dean here for the past 3 years. And it's a pleasure to welcome all of you who are here now, but also those of you who are returning to Brooklyn for this occasion. It's been really a sort of a who's who list, just in seeing so many faculty back to the law school, and so many alumni and other friends. And so welcome back, welcome home to Brooklyn Law School. Well, this is truly a momentous occasion. It's really staggering in many ways to think about the moment of this occasion. The excellence of any institution of higher education, of course, is defined ultimately by its faculty, by their ambition, by the spark and curiosity that drives their scholarship, by the passion they bring to the classroom and to mentoring students, by the reputation they build, and the impact of their leadership. We're here to celebrate the legacies of 5 true giants of the Brooklyn Law School faculty. Their retirements, of course, are a major milestone for them and for their families, and we're so honored to welcome the family members of our 5 retiring colleagues here with us this evening. But their transition is, of course, at least as momentous for Brooklyn Law School as an institution, because together they have done as much, these 5 individuals, to shape and make Brooklyn Law School what it is today as any other 5 individuals in the 125-year history of this great institution. Stacy Caplow, Maryellen Fullerton, Joel Gora, Susan Herman, and Aaron Twerski have combined 230 years of service to Brooklyn Law School. And yet, as truly impressive as that number is, that really is the longevity of their service is the least significant thing about their tenure at Brooklyn Law School. What is truly remarkable about each of them is that they have each made mammoth contributions across every dimension of what it means to be a faculty member, as scholars, as teachers, and as institutional leaders. Every faculty member is gifted in at least one of these dimensions. Some of us hope to stand out in 2 of them if we're lucky, but it really is rare indeed to be a top contributor across all 3 of these dimensions. And yet Stacy, Maryellen, Joel, Susan, and Aaron have each been that and more. Their scholarship has helped to shape their fields of study in constitutional law, immigration and refugee law, products liability and torts, and it continues to do so. Aaron just published among many other recent publications, an ambitious retrospective on the past 25 years of court decisions applying the restatement of products liability, for which he, of course, was a co-reporter. Susan recently published a book modestly, ambitiously surveying all of U.S. civil liberties. Maryellen and Stacy have jointly authored an article on immigration venue that's due out shortly in the Cornell Law Review. And Joel has continued to contribute about free speech issues, among others. So in terms of the scholarship and the impact they have had, it is astonishing. They've also, though, each been passionate and dedicated and revered classroom teachers. The law school has been publishing, as some of you may have seen on social media or otherwise, publishing feature stories about each of our retiring colleagues. And it has been really heartwarming and inspiring to look at the comments posted on the social media posts by their former students, spanning all of their decades of teaching at Brooklyn Law School. And the comments are really of the vein consistently for all of these colleagues, crediting them not just with teaching their students the law and giving them the foundation to be successful in their careers as lawyers, but inspiring their lifelong commitment to justice, to providing moral clarity and a compass in all they do, to doing the right thing. These are the kinds of qualities that they have imparted to generations of Brooklyn Law School graduates. They have each also been remarkably institution builders and leaders, deans and presidents, all of them, who have left lasting legacies through their service to colleagues, students, and the public. Stacy was, of course, our first dean of clinics and experiential learning for a decade. Maryellen, of course, was interim dean of the law school, among other roles. Joel, vice dean twice, maybe 3 times we could come back. Let's talk, Joel.
We'll get you next week.
Susan was, of course, president of the National ACLU for 13 years, and Aaron was dean of Hofstra Law School, twice, I believe, actually, interim dean and then later dean, and as well as vice dean. So it really is an astonishing all-star cast of contributors in every dimension. And yet beyond all of these really stellar professional accomplishments and contributions, they each stand out for the warmth and generosity of their contributions to our community as colleagues and friends. They've quietly stepped in for colleagues in need. They've provided counsel and encouragement at crucial moments. They consistently look out for our students and staff and colleagues, and generally make sure that Brooklyn Law School is not just a school or a workplace, but is truly a family. We celebrate them, we honor them, and we are all deeply in their debt. I am now pleased to turn the podium over to the stars of the evening, our retiring faculty, and we've invited each of them to share some of their reflections on this occasion, and I will start by introducing the first of our speakers by way of a trivia quiz, which you can play along with at home. And then each of the retiring giants of the faculty will in turn introduce the next speaker with an introductory quiz of this kind. So you have to guess which giant was a teaching fellow at Harvard Law School when Erwin Griswold was dean in 1966, taught conflicts of laws to a class of 250 students at Cornell as a visiting professor, was put in charge of the government's suit against the Virginia poll tax when John Doerr was head of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, was the younger brother of a rabbinical medical student whose tuition was paid for by the famous comedian Danny Thomas. This one may be the giveaway. and who is the twin brother of the chief rabbi of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. With that, it's my honor to introduce Aaron Twerski.
Thank you very much, Dean. This coming September will be the first time in 59 years that I will not be teaching torts.
Yeah, no, it's on. Try it again.
This year, this coming September, will be the first time in 59 years that I will not be teaching torts. In each year, I started the class with a case called Gora versus Daly. I took the first-year students through the reasoning of the court, which was sometimes good, sometimes bad. You might be, yes, it might be possible that pulling a chair out from behind someone who fell on the ground and got hurt together might not be a tort. It seems incredible, but that's perfectly possible with the law as it stood then. What then does intent mean in the law of torts? Getting the students to read, my focus was to getting the students to read cases critically. That's what I wanted to accomplish. So this September, I will be getting the bends, and if not for my bad back, I would return to teaching. When Dean David Traeger reached out to me at Hofstra many, many years ago to come to Brooklyn Law School, I thought I was making a change for convenience. Downtown Brooklyn was much closer to my home in Borough Park. I could avoid an hour of commute. But I soon learned that I was making a change to a law school that was dynamic, a school that valued excellence in the classroom and excellence in the scholarship. I was given all the support of the many years when I was a reporter for the Products Liability Restatement, and the many years I was writing the law review articles. That support was not only financial, but in many ways made it possible. My colleagues Neil Cohn and Ted Janger joined me in my books and articles. They were terrific. But not only they, but the entire faculty created a great environment to my work. They were super teachers and super scholars. My best reward for all of this was not the hundreds of the citations to the Products Liability Restatement and law review articles, but something entirely different. 2 years ago, after the close of the semester, students in my torts class bought one of these huge cards. They thanked me for a stimulating class and the warm feelings for me. Each student contributed remarks. I will keep it and hang it in my office at home. For me, it is priceless. So to all my colleagues and to all my students, I can only say thank you for making my experience at Brooklyn Law School heaven on earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I turn the microphone over to Susan Herman, and you will hear at least a small part of her incredible accomplishments.
I gave away some of these in the introduction earlier about who was the president of the ACLU through church.
Thank you all. Isn't this a great party? I just feel so fortunate for my 45 years of teaching here. This has always felt like a family, as the dean says. It really does feel like a family. And I feel so blessed in having had a wonderful cohort of colleagues for all these years. And it is amazing to be retiring together with four of my favorite faculty members. So starting with Aaron, the giant you just heard from. Aaron has always been magic in front of the room, as you can tell. So Aaron, remember the year where I asked if I could come visit your class because I wanted to see what the students had all been talking about? And I found out. He's really magic in front of the class. So Maryellen and I started teaching in 1980, the same year as Norman Poser, who's right up in front here. He beat us to retirement, but we all started in the same class. And we would have lunch first every 5 years and then every year to celebrate our anniversaries of how long we'd been teaching together. We joined Stacy, who had been here for a couple of years already, and this was at a time when there were not that many women on law school faculties. So we felt so fortunate to have not just great colleagues, but to have women to kind of go through all of life stages with. So when Stacy, Maryellen, and I were newbies, we all had babies. And so over the years, we would view their landmarks, where were they going to school, and what about this, and what about that? And I can tell you that they grew up pretty well, and I can tell you that my daughter Erica is right here. Wave to everybody. Having come from San Francisco, but not only for this, she is sitting next to Jordan Cerruti, stealing your thunder, Stacy, who is Stacy's son, and the two of them just saw each other Saturday night because it was their St. Anne's 30th reunion. They went to school together. So, this was what it was like to have colleagues who you were really going through life, and supporting each other on a personal level. Of course, we also supported each other on a professional level. We figured out teaching, and we figured out developing as scholars. And we also figured out, I think it's true for everybody up here and so many more of our colleagues, that in addition to the teaching and scholarship, we all had a real commitment to the idea that we needed to make a difference to the world in our own chosen fields in the criminal legal system and the immigration world, and for me at the ACLU. And that brings me to Joel Gora, sitting in the middle of up here. Joel is the person who connected me with both Brooklyn Law School and the ACLU. So Joel was on the appointments committee. Thank you, Joel. So Joel was on the appointments committee the year that I got an offer to teach here. And so he would call me up from time to time. I had known him because he had been on the ACLU staff, and I'd been working on an ACLU case, a whole other story. And so I thought he was just being friendly. I didn't know how the game worked. I didn't know he was kind of recruiting me. So one day he calls up in this friendly phone call, and he said to me just something offhand that clinched it. He said to me, I like coming to work every day. I like my colleagues. And I thought, I want to like coming to work every day. So I came here. So not long after that, Joel also connected me. He got me invited to be on the due process committee of the ACLU. So obviously, I stick to things a pretty long time. So I was on the ACLU board for 30-some years, and then I got to be president for 2 terms of Barack Obama and the first term of Donald Trump. And so people would often ask me, how do you do both of these things at once? How do you find the time? So who I like to quote on that is my friend Judith Kay, who when she was appointed as chief judge of New York State, she discovered really only after that by virtue of her position, she was also the chief administrative judge of all the courts of New York State. So, surprise. So she used to say, if people would say, how do you do that? She would say, each of these jobs takes 80% of my time. So how do you do that? Well, I'll tell you my secrets. Number 1, to-do lists. Very elaborate. Number 2, somebody once taught me the life philosophy of OHIO, O-H-I-O, which stands for only handle it once. Email, answer. You don't bat it back. You don't just keep doing things. And finally, I think the other secret is to have great supportive colleagues, friends, etc. So one of the chief people who was part of my ACLU life, Felicia Dickerson, is not here tonight. She was planning to be, but I think she was filled by the railroad strike and couldn't get here. But the ACLU hired her to be my assistant, and she was. And when Erica first met Felicia, she said, "Thank you for keeping my mother sane." So that was about the size of that. So when I stepped down from my ACLU position, Felicia's office had been here. She had been sitting here because if you know about not-for-profit management, one way that I was able to run the ACLU was I didn't. The executive director, Anthony Romero, ran the ACLU, and I was the chair of the board. So under not-for-profit governance, Dana, the president is not supposed to sit in the office, so Felicia had to be here with me, not in the organization. So when I stepped down as president, Felicia had been so valuable around the law school that Michael Cahill, who was dean at the time, found her a job. So she is now working with the International Students Program with Diane Edelman. So it's all very interconnected. I think that I've always found that there was a lot of synergy between my ACLU life and my teaching. I would bring ACLU issues I was working on into the class. I would sometimes bring people into the school to speak, like Anthony or Legal Learned. And one of the things that I enjoyed putting up for the Blisby auction was to come to a national board meeting with me and to meet civil libertarians from all over the country, which was something that students enjoy. So I think now I'm going to go into the Academy Awards part of the thank yous before they get the orchestra to play me off. So the first person I want to thank, Dave, is you. Thank you, Dean Meyer, from all of us for allowing us to choose our own timing for our retirement. Dave was completely supportive when we said, I think I only want to teach one semester last year. Okay, I think I'm not going to retire now, I'll retire. That doesn't happen that way at all schools. So we are incredibly fortunate to have had this level of self-determination and support, including the support to choose our exit strategy. Thank you to all my other colleagues who are not up here. So many people have just been, your professionalism and your friendship has just meant so much to me over the years. Thank you to former students who are here. There are so many former students, generations of former students who I would have loved to see here. It was really very hard for me not to invite all of the students in my last seminar from last semester, but we already have our reunion lunch planned, the post-graduation reunion lunch in 2 weeks. So it's the people who have made this such a pleasure. So last but very much not least, my family, my husband, Paul Gangsey, right here. So Paul, as some of you know, is a giant in his own right. In addition to a very successful law firm career, he had been tapped by previous Dean Nick Allard to be the founding director of the law school's CUBE, the Center for Urban Business Entrepreneurship, which he did in addition to teaching here. And even though he had an incredibly busy career of his own, he was always both willing and even eager to be best supporting actor for me in every way possible. So thank you, Paul. And the only bad thing that I have to say about my daughter Erica is she moved across the country. She apologized several times for having accidentally moved to San Francisco. So she's not getting rid of us that easily. Now that I'm no longer going to have a job in Brooklyn, we're going to move to California because, the mountain to Muhammad, et cetera. So that's what we're in the process of doing. My voice is a little scratchy because we've been decluttering and we've been among dust all day trying to get rid of things. So my leaving the building and my leaving the East Coast does not mean goodbye. I've already spoken to some of you about if you're in the Bay Area at sometime after October, let us know. Come look us up. So last thing I want to say, I think, is that with us retiring, I think we may be the only people in the room who would remember Bob Hope. Do you remember he always used to end the Academy Awards with thanks for the memories? So thanks for the memories. So should I turn it over? Do you want to read these? Okay. Okay, so I think you can read yourself the clues to who is the next giant here. So look right up the beanstalk and see if you can read it, and somebody yell out the guess, and then we'll get him to come up. Whoa, wow.
Thank you so much, Susan. You're always a tough act to follow, but it's my honor to do so. The rest of the story about Susan and I and the ACLU and Brooklyn Law School is I've been affiliated with both organizations for all of my professional life, and I'm convinced the most important thing I did for each was get Susan Herman involved in them. Both. And speaking of Academy Awards, I feel like someone getting one because there are so many people I want to thank. First, all the staff people who helped plan and implement this wonderful event, Michael Lacari, Liz Alper, Chris Gibbons, and Teresa Novolino, and others who helped them. Next, I want to thank my 4 retiring colleagues, Stacy, Maryellen, Susan, and Aaron, for the extraordinarily beneficial impact, as the dean was saying, they've had on this institution. It is humbling to be just on the same retirement list as each of them. I have served under 6 deans at the law school, all of whom have supported my work and my career. Judge Leo Glasser, who hired me and with whom I had instant chemistry, the late Judge David Traeger, who was pivotal in setting this law school on the outstanding course it has followed ever since, and who was like an older brother and mentor to me. Emerita Dean Joan Wexler, with whom I worked closely as Vice Dean for almost 10 years, and who raised the status and visibility of the law school in so many ways. Thanks as well to the deans since then who have supported my work, Nick Allard, Michael Cahill, my colleague, and our current dean, David Meyer, who has established a wonderful reputation for his work with the law school. And I have the good fortune of so many wonderful colleagues and friends on this faculty. And I need to just mention a few. Michael Gerber, who has done more for this institution for a longer period of time than any other person I can think of. Where are you, Michael? And I want to. There you go. I hope that's true. I also want to mention my dear friend Neil Cohen and Beryl Jones-Whitten. I hope she was here tonight. They were actually my students when I taught a seminar as an adjunct professor at NYU Law School, and years later, to my great delight, they became colleagues and friends at BLS. Likewise, it has been a pleasure and a privilege to work with Vice Dean Bill Ariza on First Amendment issues for so many years. Of course, most of what I've achieved would not have been done without the love and support of my family. My wonderful, loving wife of almost 61 years, Anne Ray Martin. A former journalist for Newsweek magazine, she supported my work in so many ways: confidant, editor, cheerleader, and best friends. Between the two of us, we had freedom of speech and freedom of the press well covered. Our extraordinary daughter, Susanna Gora, herself a journalist and published book author, has been equally supportive of my work as a lawyer and a professor. Also true of my son-in-law, Zachary Abella, a highly respected media lawyer and a wonderful husband, father, and son, who unfortunately could not be here tonight because of work obligation with his legal work for a well-known broadcast network. And our extraordinary granddaughter, Mayabella, who lights up all of our lives with her intelligence, her charm, and her all-around, she doesn't like me to say this, deliciousness. Last, but anything but least, is my world-class macatenista. Now that's a Latin word for my daughter's mother-in-law. As many of you know, Rosalie Silverman Abella, Canadian Supreme Court Justice retired, is a world-class jurist and a world-class person, and also a proud 2007 honorary graduate of Brooklyn Law School. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Rosie claimed that although she's received dozens and dozens of honorary degrees from all the great institutions around, we were the first law school to give her an honorary degree. I believe that's correct, in America, and I believe that's correct. And we were smart to get in on the ground floor. For a law professor to become family with such a person who is great in so many different ways has been an extraordinary experience. And most importantly, we all share our love for our wonderful granddaughter, May. All of these people, colleagues, family, and friends have enabled me to do the things that I have done. But I could not conclude my remarks without thanking the students. Over the years, I have taught over 10,000 BLS students in my various courses and kept up with many of them as alums, some of whom I'm happy to say are here tonight. Of all the many wonderful benefits of being a law professor, and there are many, the relationship with students and alumni is the most priceless. I've had two professional objectives in life: to work in the area of government and politics and to be a professor. 10 years as a full-time lawyer at the ACLU and 3 decades of pro bono ACLU work after that have helped me fulfill the first goal. And 48 years of teaching at Brooklyn Law School have helped me fulfill both goals, being involved in government and politics and part of an institution which has done so much good for so many people. So, if I can sum up, to be retiring along with 4 colleagues who have each made extraordinary contributions to the betterment of Brooklyn Law School, the cause of legal education more generally, and indeed to the law itself, is an honor that I will always cherish. At the end of the day, I am so grateful for the career I've had here, teaching about and working on constitutional issues which are at the heart of our governmental system and our democracy. And most importantly, I've had the privilege of helping so many BLS students over the years to fulfill their dreams of graduating from law school and having careers as lawyers. It does not get any better than that. So thank all of you for the privilege of letting me have such a wonderful career as part of this great BLS community and to participate in all the amazing changes that have occurred in the law school since 1978. Thank you so much. So now you have to guess, where's my script? You have to guess which giant is next. Now, I plan to bet on the last giant because I have a pretty good idea. By that point, we'll be able to figure it out. But there it is. I think, who is this person that's referred to here? Let me hear it out. No, don't be shy. It's Maryellen Fullerton.
Shout it out.
There you go.
And I think that's the first time in my life I've been called a giant. I'm not even 5 foot anymore. All those years at Brooklyn Law School. I'd like to begin by talking about the background I have and the way that it's connected with where I am today. As many of you know, I grew up in a family that moved a lot. By the time I was in 4th grade, we had lived in 6 different states. And the moving kept going. But when I moved to Brooklyn in 1980 and joined the Brooklyn Law School faculty, I put down deep roots. I'm still here all those years later. I've had a few overseas sabbaticals to just keep me in touch with the transient part of my life, but I've been here. And the reason I've stayed here is because the Brooklyn Law School family has been so nurturing. It's nurtured my efforts to become an effective teacher, my evolution as a scholar, my efforts also to take on multiple law reform proposals, and that together with the warm and friendly atmosphere made this a place I found home. I am now cleaning out my office of 40 plus years. And you won't be surprised that I found multiple things I haven't seen for years. The first I found is a letter from Dean Glasser in 1980, offering me an assistant professor position at an annual salary of $27,500 plus medical insurance. I snapped it up. Second, I found a letter from Joel Gora, welcoming to the faculty, me to the faculty, and commenting on a Third Circuit opinion that I had drafted. I must have sent him after we had talked at Brooklyn Law School. The name and the topic of this opinion are lost in my memory, but clearly it addressed the First Amendment in some way. Joel wrote that he read this opinion with interest. And then he added, notwithstanding my personal instincts, I found it relatively persuasive. I still haven't been able to persuade him. Third, I don't have a letter from her, but my first meeting with Susan Herman is emblazoned on my mind. We started the same day, as she mentioned, and where do we meet? The basement of the Brooklyn Law School library, where we were prowling the stacks, This was before the internet. This was before online legal research. And we were trying to check out the resources in our field. She has been a guide and a friend and a role model ever since. By the way, as she told you, Norman Poser, who started that very same day but was not in the library with us, is here tonight. Another vivid memory I have is from visiting Aaron Twerski's class. We had agreed to observe each other's class and comment on them. His class was a total revelation. Not only was he provocative and compelling, but he was a total master of outweighting the students, of being comfortable with what was endless silence. And then he'd wait some more. My teaching changed that day. Thank you, Aaron. Now let me say a few words about Stacy Caplow. You know her as a visionary clinician, founder of the Safe Harbor Project, one of the most effective career pipelines for our students and our alums. I know her as a never-ending source of creative ideas, as somebody who talked me into being a co-teacher of multiple different courses and creating the courses, as a co-author, as a faithful and vigilant editor, as an inveterate shopper, and an insatiable reader. This past fall, we had the opportunity to teach a course together in law, literature, and immigration. It inspired us to read authors from every continent, and we and the students pondered the weight of the law on the journeys that immigrants make. It's been a great joy to collaborate with Stacy and with all my colleagues sitting here at the table, and it is a special pleasure to undertake this next transition in such good company. I'm closing with a few special thank yous. To my family, Tom Roberts, my husband, who has been my most faithful editor. Everything is shorter and clearer after he reads it. Thank you. To my children who are here tonight, Owen, Cullen, and Eleanor, and to Eleanor's partner, John, who's joined us. They've been uprooted by my many sabbaticals abroad, and they haven't always liked it. I tell them that they've been improved by it, and they tell me to talk to their therapist. To my faculty assistants who made it all possible, Beth Palastro, Angela Termini, Angela Termini, Joanne Tapia, Maria Ranieri, who's pinch hit for me, and before them, June Paris, Rose Patty, and others. I couldn't have done it without them. To Jean Davis, our librarian extraordinaire, and the whole library staff. To all the staff and the administrators, to Michael Licari and Liz Alper, as Joel mentioned, they have been responsible for putting this and many other wonderful events together, and to everybody else in the room that's part of that. Dean Meyer is a relative newcomer, a short timer, only 3 years, but his warm support during these 3 years has been especially helpful to me. Thank you, Dave. I also want to thank the former deans, starting with Dean Glasser, now Judge Glasser, who hired me, and especially David Traeger, who helped recruit me. I'm happy to say that David Traeger's wife, Roberta Weisbrod, is here to celebrate with us tonight. To my faculty colleagues, you are the ones who've made all the difference. We've worked together, we've disagreed with each other, we've contributed, I think, so much to Brooklyn Law School and to trying to help both serve our students and create a vision for legal education. And you've personally helped me become a better teacher, scholar, and take on other projects. Thank you to the faculty. I want to add that Barry Zaretsky, my closest friend on the faculty for many years, died tragically too young. But I am very happy that his wife, Joan Glatman, and his daughters, Ari and Tamar, are here tonight. It feels like a full circle. Thank you for coming. And as Joel said before me, my warmest thanks go to the students, who are the point of it all. I don't have the time to acknowledge all the students, and I'm sure you're glad for that. But I do want to mention two, very briefly. Diane Edelman, our Director of International Programs, was in my very first class. And she's here with us. Judge Ramon Reyes, a member of the Board of Trustees. An adjunct teacher, an amazing friend for Brooklyn Law School. I first saw him sitting in the back of a very large civil procedure class. I soon found out that he was prepared, he was hardworking, he was smart. We worked closely while he was a student and stayed in touch since that time. Every year, he generously gives time and energy to Brooklyn Law School students. This devotion to Brooklyn Law School students is a devotion that you all share. That's what has made Brooklyn Law School such a wonderful home. Thank you for being part of the Brooklyn Law School family. It's hard to top the next giant, and particularly the first question that's on the trivia. That's a dedicated teacher. And I will, you know who it is, by process of elimination, if not by everything else, Stacy Caplow.
Well, maybe I have to start by saying the baby is now a grown man, a lawyer, sitting over there. And so let me begin by saying ditto. What more can I say that hasn't been said already? So what I will say probably will sound fairly familiar, but with much less humor than my predecessors. 50 years in 5 minutes is a daunting task. That's what we allotted ourselves. But I was thinking that Brooklyn Law School is about to celebrate its 125th anniversary, which means that it's half as young as the country. No statues going up, I hope. But that means that I've also taught 2/5 of the life of Brooklyn Law School. So that's a lot, too. So I just wanted to briefly reflect back on when I started, so that anybody here who's on the faculty, who works at this institution, you have nothing to complain about. Back then, most of the people on the faculty had migrated from teaching at in the Pearl Street building, which is now Friends Academy or Friends School. At that time, students had to stand up and recite, and the women sat in the front row. So things changed a lot when we moved over to this building. But there was no new building, as most of us still call the wing of Brooklyn Law School that was built during the Dean Traeger's administration. There was no file hall, of course. The cafeteria was in the basement next to the library where Susan and Maryellen met. There were no workshops, no symposia, and as an alum from the 70s who I saw at graduation recently told me, there weren't even any t-shirts. There was no merchandise. Okay. And when Maryellen told me she looked up and found her appointment letter, I looked up mine too. I have every letter for every one of those 50 years where, my appointment and my salary. So my starting salary at Brooklyn Law School was $18,550. So, again, you have nothing to complain about. Okay. So law teaching, I think, is a job that people want to retire to, not from. I get asked, over the years by many people, how can I teach? What can I do? Everybody wants to be a teacher. And so it's sort of a big decision to leave the job that everybody else wants. It's really been the best career. When I think back on what I've done and what all of my colleagues have done over the years, we have so much freedom, so much flexibility to become what we want to be, and then to change that and become something else if that's our choice. So I thought I would just count a few ways in which it has been such a privilege to have this great job. First of all, the classroom. As everybody agrees, our teaching students and seeing former students and hearing from former students and calling up former students who now know so much more than I do is really the pleasure of the job. We get to see them. They sort of start out ambitious and eager, especially those of us who teach first semester, first year students. They're always prepared, they're always excited, and they are smart, but we turn them into something else. We turn them into knowledgeable, skilled, ethical, engaged, creative people who, for the most part, really care about doing a good job for whomever their client is. And I've even run across many people who graduated from Brooklyn Law School who are not even lawyers anymore, but they remember Brooklyn Law School and their teachers and their experiences here. We support and influence them, and this is a school which is student-centered, and it's not just the faculty, it's everybody who really cares about the well-being of all of our students. We make a huge impact on them, and I think we can be really proud of that. And for those of you who've been teaching as long as I have, you get confronted by somebody who says, I was in your class in 1978, and you gave me my worst grade ever, or something. But as Dave pointed out, there was a lot of call and response on social media, and it was so heartwarming. I'd kind of scroll through secretly, check how many comments were there. But the range of people who took the moment to just either write a like or to write a little word or two or just to say congratulations, it was so heartwarming. The other thing I really think makes the job is just sort of the generosity of the academic life. We have the freedom to engage with the world through both intellectual enterprises as well as through action. We are all lifetime learners. I measure the effectiveness of potential candidates for employment by, did I understand that job talk when I knew nothing about the topic? And there are people who teach us every day here, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's at symposia or workshops. We also have the freedom to explore new ideas, teach new classes, take new adventures, go take leaves, come back refreshed and do new activities or teach new classes or just take on whole new subject matters, as I had the good fortune to do sort of midpoint in my career here. The added dimension of clinical teaching, I just want to bring that out. It's, the students and the experiences when you're sitting knee to knee with students at a round table, talking about cases, meeting with their clients, nothing can beat that, and nothing can beat the sort of the joy that students feel in having that very first client, being able to help that very first person. And in the work that I've done most recently, that joy comes from really changing people's lives and saving their lives in many ways. They're amazing moments to watch students learn how to relate to other people that they're trying to help, to relate to them with dignity, with respect, and actually, at the end of the day, to literally jump for joy when things turn out well. So for me, each decade that I've been here allowed me to take on a new adventure, a new project, move in a new direction. And the best part of it all was I never had to charge a fee, chase a client, or run a business. It was all smooth sailing. Retiring is not easy. I got a lot of congratulations, and I sort of wonder, I always say congratulations with a question mark, because it's very hard to leave this place behind. But probably the biggest reason why it is hard to leave this place is because, as all of us have said, we have the experience of working in this incredible community of people who really do care for themselves. In our generation of colleagues, Arthur, Bailey, Norman, Marcia, Ursula, Beryl, Betsy, all of whom are here tonight, we all started together, we all supported one another. Arthur and I were even classmates in our first year section at NYU, and we've been friends ever since. We've been, in effect, life partners with all of these people. Our children know one another. They grew up with one another. Erica, Susanna, Gora, and Jordan have known each other basically all of their lives. We've taught former students' children. Roz Midget's daughter's coming here. Roz reminded me she was in my class in 1987, and her daughter's starting next year. At graduation, I check in the year of the parents who give the diplomas. Did I teach that year? And about 10 years ago, it started to be very clear that every one of those parents could have been my student. We've taught our former students' children. We've taught each other's children. So many students at Brooklyn Law School are the children of faculty members and staff members. We're basically a family, sometimes dysfunctional, we don't always agree, but we always appreciate and honor the successes of one another. We sustain one another through difficulties. I'd just like to take a quick minute before saying my thank yous to remember a few of our colleagues who are not here from that cohort of people. Minna, of course, my dear, dear friend. Barry, whose family's here tonight. Maryellen Walter, Bob Pittler, Margaret Berger, whose son is here tonight. Eve Carey, Michael Maddow, and the people who have passed away while very, in many cases prematurely, and left great holes in our hearts. I'm pleased to be in the company of my other honorees. I don't want to necessarily focus on this to the exclusion of her intellectual capacity, but Susan and I have shared many spa days, matinee days, and even all of that playtime occurred while she was doing her two jobs. There was this, I was talking to Joel the other day and asked him if he remembered the Seder when Jean and Jordan and I were stuck in traffic, and Joel and Anne Ray and Susanna had to suffer my parents because they couldn't start the Seder until we got there. And, they got stuck with them. All the years that Aaron was the quintessential reasonable man on our faculty and kept us all on a straight course. And I guess it goes without saying, based on Maryellen's remarks about me, that the feeling's mutual. There have been countless ways in which we have collaborated to write, teach, travel, and support each other. And the only thing I can never forgive her for is she didn't invite me to their wedding. I still bear a grudge, Tom. Okay. We look good in our new photos, but it would have been nice to have photos from when we started. But I'm thrilled to be linked with these four people as we walk out the door and can remember and share together our experiences. Finally, drawing upon the Academy Awards when it's always a risk, you always forget somebody, I have to mention some of the folks who I owe a special thank you to, many of whom are here tonight. Joanne, Julie, Elisa, Anna, George, Jean Davis, who became an immigration law expert when we said, how would you like to work with us sometime? And sure enough, she ran with that challenge. Beth Palastro, who has supported the Prince competition and so many other things around here. And I just want to say a blanket thank you to everybody in IT who bails me out, everybody in AV. And all of the folks from facilities, and I proudly wear their T-shirts. Finally, a huge thank you on behalf, I think, of all 5 of us, if everybody sort of said this already, to Dean Meyer for his patience with our dawdling and getting out of here. His budget's going to be much bigger next year in our absence. To Michael and Liz, to Chris Gibbons, who's not here, to Elizabeth Plavin, and shout out to dearest Rosa in the back of the room. She always fills my Tupperware, but I'm bequeathing my Tupperware to Kate Mogilescu. Okay. So I hope the BLS community of the future will be as nourishing, supportive, and as much fun as ours from the past. Best wishes for the next 50 years. We'll see who's here, still here then. And thanks for all of you for being a part of my life. Okay. So just when you thought you'd heard enough from me, one of my roles, not yet, one of my roles has been basically gift giver in chief. I assumed this role. No one asked me to do it, but I just like to, as Susan has said, I just like to shop. And I also like to think about what the recipient of the gift is like. I try to make sure that Arthur got the dustpan so that he could clean up his office, and to really try to give gifts that reflect the people. So I know none of us, especially those of us who are busy cleaning out our offices, Joel, get started, need more stuff. We're busy throwing out stuff, but I have some more stuff. So first of all, let me point out the white bags and the backpacks are courtesy of our event staff who don't want us to retire without a bunch of Brooklyn Law School stuff and swag to broadcast. And honestly, I can say that whenever I wear a Brooklyn Law School hat, somebody always says, and mind you, my response, you'll guess what my response is. They say, "Oh, do you go to Brooklyn Law School?" And I go, "Actually, no, but thanks," because they actually think I might be a student. So we're going to proudly advertise Brooklyn Law School with our umbrellas, our T-shirts, our mugs, or whatever. But I'm going to distribute my gifts. This is my swan song gift giving. And I've been spending money like crazy to think about it. But what I decided to do, because how many, there's 5 of us or 4 of us, so everybody's getting more or less one of the same thing. So I'm going to start.
Here, Stacy.
Yeah, I will. Here's the box.
Here, Maryellen, give her this.
How many mugs collectively did we find in our office? Is this on? Is this working?
Yeah.
So, but I did try. It's close enough. I can't hold everything. Okay, so this is for Aaron. I'll just have to read the mugs because it took me a long time to find the perfect mug. Uh-oh, I think I feel an intentional tort coming on. Joel, this mug is all of the presidential election slogans that can fit on a mug, as well as a First Amendment breath mints. Okay. For Susan, the entire Bill of Rights, as well as the Ruth Bader Ginsburg judgments. And of course, for Maryellen, refugees welcome, as well as the You Can Do It empowerment. Thank you. See, this is how we collaborate. Okay. All right. So, what? Don't worry.
Some of us have some presents for Stacy in mind. Don't worry.
So Susan, in keeping with the theme of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as our Ruth Bader Ginsburg chair, you get the Ruth Bader Ginsburg When There Are 9 socks to keep your feet warm. Maryellen, my favorite and companion reader, gets the Book Nerd socks. Okay. Joel, let's see if I can read this. Joel, you get the Protect Voting Rights socks. And Aaron gets the Do Not Disturb, This Lawyer is Off Duty socks. Okay, now from the t-shirts. This is my favorite. Guess who this is for? And I bet you can't guess who this is for. Joel gets the Constitution is here. And Maryellen gets the subtle expression, don't want to go around wearing I abolish ICE, so this is the abolish ICE. Okay, now, sorry. I'm busy getting rid of books, but, okay, so Susan, the San Francisco Where to Eat book.
Thank you.
Actually, wait, this is not the right one, sorry. Joel, Keep the Politics in the Kitchen cookbook. Maryellen gets the Immigrant Cookbook. This one's a pretty substantial one, so she's going to be doing a lot of cooking. Okay. Now, Aaron, I didn't get you a cookbook because I wasn't sure if you cooked. Does he cook? No. So what I got you is the 25 icons of product liability, so that when you're in the kitchen watching somebody else cook, you don't get burned or hurt in any way. Finally, because we're retiring, there's always a risk that we're going to start getting soft in the head. So I thought that everybody needs a book that would give them some opportunity to reflect on important ideas. So for Susan, we have the Constitution Illustrated for children. For Joe, what is the Supreme Court? For Maryellen, another question, what is a refugee? And for Aaron,
The King of Torts.
no spa days, no restaurants. On behalf of the faculty fund, which is the money that we collect each year in order to be able to make gifts to faculty, to staff, to all sorts of occasions, I donated on the behalf or in the honor of each of my colleagues, Joe and Susan to the ACLU, surprise, surprise, Aaron to Maimonides, where he serves on the board, Maimonides Hospital, and Maryellen to the Immigration Rapid Response Coalition, an organization whose board I sit on, so we may as well.
Okay, so Stacy may be retiring from giving gifts, but you've not retired yet from getting them. So after all these years of Stacy bringing all the warmth and humor to all these faculty occasions, including retirement, somebody obviously has to give you gifts. So Maryellen and I have accepted this challenge, and I want you to watch carefully to see if we've learned anything from you after all these years. So starting with the gag gifts, right? Has to be something topical and something that we think you're going to be doing in your retirement, which is totally unlike what you do now. So some of you may know about Stacy that every day she does how many puzzles? 5, including the crossword puzzle. So one of the things that she's frequently given to the Blisby auction has been a crossword tutorial for the winning students. And I can tell you that Stacy is already looking ahead to retirement by having connected with somebody who might be her mentor for constructing crossword puzzles. So here's what you truly need. Crosswords for seniors, for dummies. That's called irony.
And we know that when she's not doing crossword puzzles or while she's doing them, she's probably going to be doing a lot of traveling in the future. I understand she's got a wonderful suitcase gift from her folks in the clinic. And to keep her busy and give her a little advance warning, we've got her the book, People We Meet on Vacation, a beach read.
So another thing that how many of you have gotten movie recommendations from Stacy? Okay, she's very good at that. So she knows a lot about movies. So in retirement, we thought you might need this. It's also a game, the Ultimate Movie Trivia Challenge. So there you go. So you can see how much you know about the movies you've seen, which are many, and maybe you'll even meet some new movies. So we had thought about like giving you a gift certificate to go to like some movie theater or something like that, but we decided instead, why should you have to go any place when you could just stay home and have the microwave popcorn and watch whatever you want?
And then this is a partially funny, partially serious gift. The funny part, Susan, would you hold that? Her special Statue of Liberty sunglasses that we expect her to wear all summer long.
They'll look great in Fire Island, right?
And to go along with that, we went together and gave a donation to a group called Emma's Torch. You can see Emma's Torch here. We thought this was particularly appropriate because Emma's Torch is not only a symbol of immigration and people coming to the United States, but as you can see from this photograph, it's the hand that's holding the torch that's so important. And Emma's Torch is similarly a group that is trying to help develop culinary skills for immigrants and refugees so that they can get jobs in the food industry. And we thought that in addition to Stacy having helped so many people through the clinic, so many students, and more than 200 applicants who got asylum or other humanitarian protection, that this charitable gift would be a way that she could combine food and immigration, two of her major interests. So, Emma's Torch.
So I think, as we were saying, this really, it's been a family, it's been a journey, and I think that we're ending as we began, with the laughter and with the serious support of not-for-profits that we believe in, and with the activities that we will continue in retirement. I'm sure that Brooklyn Law School is in the very good hands of the faculty and staff, and you'll define in the classroom, but I don't know who in the world is going to replace Stacy giving the gifts.
I've always been wary of thanking family for what they have done. You don't know where to start, you don't know where to begin, you don't know where to end. Of the 70 law review articles and several books, the one who suffered the most for that was my wife. She was... And each time she would ask me, another article? And the answer is, I'm compelled by my addiction. And so to Crandall and to all the kids whose time I stole for the work that I did, thanks.
I'm sorry to prolong this, but I realized to my great chagrin, while I gave a shout out to my son, I didn't adequately shout out my husband, and I don't know what the trip home would be like. But Jean, who also had a parallel career to mine at New York Law School for many, many years. So I always joke with our kids about our dinner table conversations. We're pretty boring, self-defense, rule against hearsay exceptions. But like all of us here, our families provided great support, and mine certainly is no exception. Even though my California kids didn't want to come.
I want to say two things. One, I get to introduce my son-in-law, Zachary Abella, whose work responsibilities ended early, and he was able to show up, and I'm so proud of him. And number two, I think the remarks you've heard from my colleagues tonight is the most remarkable example of why living in this institution for all these years has been such an extraordinary and wonderful and joyful experience.
Well, there could hardly be a better summation than that, but I will just say that though we had plenty of advance warning, at least 3 years, that this day would come, since you all elected to go on the so-called glide path towards retirement, and so there was ample heads up, but still being here now at this day as it's arrived is still a staggering sense of the magnitude of, I won't say loss, because it's a transition, and one thing that's clear is you can't retire from family. We're together still, and we take consolation in knowing that you'll be back and very much involved, even if it requires flights back from California, to be involved in the intellectual life of the faculty and our community, and maybe we'll even wheedle you back into the classroom at some point. So this is... So pleased that we have cake making its way around and dessert out there, and so please stay and join. But for now, join me, please, and if you have a glass or a piece of cake or something, to raise it in gratitude and affection for our 5 BLS giants: Stacy Caplow, Maryellen Fullerton, Joel Gora, Susan Herman, and Aaron Twerski.